Hello and welcome back to the Andy Takes That Chance review show. Entering the Acu Stadium this weekend, displaying ample BDE, was top of the table Stevenage FC. 100% record in the league so far. How could the Terriers respond to 15 minutes of madness at Blackpool and a hit-and-miss win over Donny in midweek? Alex Ravel's side had experience galore and League One's top scorer in Jamie Reid. Yet it was Town who came out on top and leapfrogged their counterparts. Joining myself, Matt Shaw, to discuss the game back from his sunny spell caravanning in Barbados is Ian Kilroy Silk. And like the 20th century sweets made by Swizzles, a man who is performing a double dip this week, it's Jerry Hindog Hinnon. How are we both doing?
It's brilliant, this though. I'm not the double dipper for once. It's nice to experience this from the other side of the wall.
I was going to go with like a
double dipper.
I was going to go with a recession-based thing, and I binned it off in the end.
No, it's great. I've got, all the takes you could ever need, Matt. So glad to be here.
Okay, so a quick shout out for our Patreon. So we'll do a competition when we hit 1,000 subscribers. So we're not a million miles away. So please sign up, even to the free one, www.takesthatchance.com. It's also the place where you will the only place where you'll be able to see our Peter Clark interview when I finally pull my finger out and get it posted. Right, boys. So it was South Asian Heritage Day at the weekend. So when the players came off the coach, they were greeted with some sort of tabla drumming, which was pretty cool. The team news was Ben Wiles was back in for Castledine. Wallace kept his place, and Sorensen was in for Gooch. No surprise about Lyndon Gooch because he played 3 in a row, and there's a couple of midweek games coming up. Wallace came in to help combat the aerial threat, we suspect, and Ben Wiles finished really well against Doncaster, so that was a deserved recall into the side. But Murray Wallace was probably the biggest surprise, I think, to your casual observer. But against a direct and physical side, his extra height was probably quite useful early on, Killer.
Yeah, I think that's the only thing you can look at with Wallace, in that his performance prior to this wasn't great. And I think if you'd have asked any of us who would have been changed from the back four, it would have been Wallace, to be totally honest. I listened to Radio Leeds on the way in as well, and Matty Glennon, I don't know what he said too much afterwards about the game, but beforehand he was also looking at that, thinking what was going on, Matt. But yeah, Stevenage, I think it's a little bit lazy to throw at them that they just play long ball football and they've got big guys. They do have. We did see that later on at the end of the game, but they're not just about that. So I don't actually believe it was just for the extra height. I think Lee Grant, when it comes to picking his players, has some sort of model in his mind, and he likes a little bit of rotation. He spoke about getting everybody fit for the games in September, October, and November, and that work has to start now. So I don't just think it was just an aerial thing with him, Matt. I think it's more that Lee Grant wants everybody to be fit and ready to go. It was just more surprising, Matt, to see Watmore out again of the team entirely. I found that actually more surprising than anything else, in that obviously Rowan came back in. And to be fair, when looking at him being not in the squad against Donny, I kind of thought he might have had another injury, another niggle like he had a couple of games prior. But with Watmore, obviously he had a tough game against Blackpool. Grant does chop and change players. We've seen people like Kasumu miss out and then come back in. But no Watmore for a second game in a row is something strange. I know Bolker's also a guy that's been missing, but I think we kind of expect him to maybe move on, and maybe that's going to happen the next few days. I'm not entirely sure, but with Jack Watmore, it was just a bit different. So other than Wallace starting, Matt, yeah, I think Watmore missing out was also something that stood out at the beginning. Yeah,
I wasn't massively surprised by that, because I thought Josh Feeney had a really good game against Doncaster. I gave him man of the match in our player ratings for the midweek game. So, and I know so far Grant seems like the kind of coach who likes to reward players who play well. Like we mentioned, Ben Wiles came back into the side, and he deserved to do so after the Doncaster performance. So I think it would have been hard to drop Feeney based on the little game time he's had and how well he played against Doncaster, and he played well again here. So I think Jack Watmore's got a bit of a job on, hasn't he, to get his eye back in. But I think he'll probably be back in for the Sunderland game, I would imagine, on Tuesday, as they look to switch things around, and maybe Murray Wallace might be as well at centre back again, or Balker. But if we don't see Balker in the League Cup, Killer, I think I will take your point that maybe he's not long for this Huddersfield Town world, maybe, because you would expect those are the games where he would be thrown into at least get a little fitness, because I know he's probably not 100%. But Gerald, Stevenage lined up as we probably expected. We discussed, didn't we, in the drive-in? Jerry stepped in ably, and the praise was effusive for Jerry stepping in for Mr. Kilroy in the drive-in, and we expected them to go 4-2-3-1. It was pretty much the team that we thought it would be. I think it was exactly the team we thought it would be, wasn't it?
Yeah.
No surprises whatsoever. It's basically the team that starts every week for Alex Ravel. Lots of, like we said, lots of experience, lots of just a tough, solid, well-organised outfit, aren't they? And we did not expect Huddersfield Town to win this game easily. I've seen a lot of people say that they found this game boring or frustrating, but I didn't. And here's why. In the season preview, I think we sat there, Killer, didn't we? And we sort of said there was a mention or worry, wasn't there, that we hadn't perhaps had a lot of time to develop different strategies and different styles, or more than one way to skin a cat effectively. But I thought we showed something in this game that we previously hadn't. So instead of kind of rampaging down both sidelines, in the first half, we were very controlled, very measured, and deliberately quite slow in possession. And it felt like the idea was to kind of work out how to tire the Stevenage press, and when they retreated, just to sort of move them around and just keep them moving. And, sort of almost rope-a-dope, I guess, in some kind of way. But it just felt the idea was to just tire Stevenage by moving them around quite a lot. A lot of it was slow. A lot of it was wait for them to come in and then move the ball. It was very measured. Statistically, we had 68% of the ball in the first half, which is unusual for us. We're usually sort of a bit of a wham bam, thank you, ma'am, quick time lover kind of team, aren't we? But we had 7 shots in that first half, but it kind of felt like something new from Lee Grant. And Jerry, for me, that was quite interesting because it felt like a different string to the bow in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I think it accomplished what Lee Grant wanted to accomplish. It felt to me like this was a game where he said, we are not going to open ourselves up. I think particularly coming straight off the Doncaster game where, they were outplayed in the first half. Like, everybody here knows that. Everybody listening knows that. There are aliens on Mars that understand that Town were outplayed in that first half against Doncaster. And so I think, it's an understandable reaction to say, okay, well, we're going to keep it a little bit more buttoned up. We're going to keep more of the ball, keep things calmer as an approach, right? Like we're not going to invite the opponent onto us nearly as much as they did against Doncaster, and really sort of control the game. Maybe kind of get into halftime. If they found a goal somewhere in the first half, I think obviously Grant would have taken that, but I think he was also probably going to be very happy going in at half 0-0 and say, you know what, I've proven that we can make adjustments at halftime. We've seen several times already this season that Town's bench is better than a lot of other benches in League One, and I'm sure he would have felt the same about Stevenage. And he says, if we go into halftime 0-0, that's a-okay. We'll come out in the second half and we'll find a way to score a goal, maybe score 2 and win the game. I think, he said afterwards, he was happy because that was the game that Town had controlled the most, where they had the most control of the game. And I think we particularly saw that in the first half where like you said, Matt, the approach was like, let's get a little more possession. Let's not go as quick and as open as they were against Doncaster. And it worked. Stevenage, they had one sort of half chance there in the middle of the box. I can't remember the player who kind of scooped it, and, Goodman
Campbell
basically had kind of an easy save, to make. It's one of those where it's like, okay, it's a shot, it's in the box, it's from a good position, but like, he's kind of leaning back as he hits it. Goodman doesn't have to work for that. And that was as close as they got.
It was an easy. When that landed at his feet, I was a little bit. I was like heart in mouth because I had a really good angle of that, and it just looked like he was just going to whip it in the top corner. And Goodman just basically, before it had left his foot, just went and stood there. It was just a really good read from the keeper, to be fair to him.
Yeah.
Okay, so Killer, I think in that first half, one player that stood out in particular would have been Lasse Sorensen. He was, I think, Town's best player probably in that first half, and for a 5-minute spell, probably our worst player at one point as well. But that's what you get with Lasse Sorensen, isn't it? it just felt like he was kind of back to the last Sorensen that we saw early last season. And thanks to Jerry and his requests, I've been beavering away trying to do Huddersfield Town's goals of the season from last year, and it's very tedious and monotonous work, Jerry. But what I noticed very early on in a lot of goals Town scored start of last season, it was a lot of them were based around Lars Sorensen running with the ball down the right hand side and either cutting the ball back or creating something from the edge of the box. And that's what he was doing, Killer. Again, Sorensen was back creating things. A few things he did quite well. A few things perhaps he would do next time. But it's good to see the competition down that right-hand side. And both Gooch and Sorensen seem to be in a little bit of form at the minute. And that's not a bad thing, is it, coming with all these games coming up?
No, it's great, Matt. It's quickly become a position of strength at right back. I think it's helped somewhat with Harness in front of them. I think he offers quite a lot of intelligent protection. But with Sorensen, Matt, I think it just shows you that, remember, he wasn't ever a defender. He's become a defender quite recently. He was a wing back for Lincoln, but initially came in as an attacking midfielder. Going forward, Lars Sorensen is fine. I can't get too carried away and say he's a world beater. He might be by the end of this season, but 45 minutes or 90 minutes, however much he played, doesn't necessarily make him fantastic. But he's definitely much better going forward, isn't he? If all he has to worry about is going forward, then he is an asset. He's not fully a weapon yet, Matt, but an asset. I'll go that far.
I'm
with you, Matt.
Yeah.
To go back quickly to the beginning, I loved it. I absolutely loved the entire game. I thought it was like a game of chess. There were little things going on. There were little adjustments being made. And now my criticism up until now on Lee Grant has been that whilst we've been better, I think, in second halves, the tactical adjustments have been somewhat limited, maybe through circumstance in that it's not entirely been needed, in that Orient were terrible and we pumped them easy enough. And then the Donny first 45 were pretty shocking, and we managed to sort it out in the second 45. But my problem with that on the Patreon episode, as we mentioned, Matt, between you and myself, in that you can't play like that for 45 minutes against most teams because you're 2-3-0 down and the game has gone. Luckily, we got to 0-0 and we kicked on a little bit with some changes in the second half. But Blackpool second half, I found really poor structurally. I thought we were really tactically limited. Yet everything that happened on Saturday against Stevenage was exactly the opposite. It looked like we'd learned from it. But it wasn't just that we learned from it from kickoff. It's like throughout the game, we grew into the game more and more and more. I still think we started the game in the first 10 minutes. Town are always really good. We press so high. Nobody can seem to live with us for 10 minutes. No matter who we're playing against, we always start this frantic carnage kind of football. And if we scored a few early goals. And that's why, though, we're so energetic. But then what happens after 10, 15 minutes is we settle down a little bit more. And now you could see on Saturday that we had a back six for the first, more or less first 45 minutes, in that Herbie Kane and Leeds, they stayed both pretty deep. And it offered a lot of protection. It meant we were quite limited somewhat going forward, Matt. We were better than we have been. But Sorensen, like you said, did offer quite a lot down the right-hand side. Murray Wallace didn't offer the same down the left, so I felt Ruskin was poorer on Saturday than he has been up until this point, although there's a lot to say that the Stevenage right back, I can't remember his name, putting a decent shift on him, and he was probably the reason why Ruskin didn't look as dangerous as he had. But not only that, Matt, I think we started passing a little bit more progressively in this game, in that we weren't always sideways and backwards. We were trying to feel Stevenage out, looking for that weakness. Absolutely. Kane is really, really good at it, Matt, and I absolutely love him playing in this DCM role. I think it's a role he's made to play, and if he stays fit by the end of this season, I expect him to probably be up there with Sean Rowan as player of the season, because it's just so built for him in the way that he plays. He's a big guy, he wins those second balls, takes those cynical fouls when he needs to. But we just controlled it, and we were just figuring it out, Matt, and we didn't rush it. That's the part that I really enjoyed about it. We felt like we were the team on top without... It never looked like we were going to win 3 and 4-0, but it didn't look like we were going to concede. And how many times have we seen that as a Town team over the last few years? We hadn't. Every time we get attacked, normally we feel under pressure, but Stevenage, you could see they were a good team. You could see that they had a game plan, a proper League One game plan, Matt. Quick throw-ins. When they got the ball, they ran it towards goal, not out wide. They were very clever in how they tried to play football when, on the rare occasions they did get it. But we looked calm. We looked controlled, and it felt like it were a filling out process, and it felt routine from the first minute. I loved how we grew into the game, and I loved, as I'll get onto in a little bit, the changes we saw in the second half. But like you say, Matt, that control, passing around, that patience, when you can be patient. I felt at Blackpool we didn't have patience in the right time, in that we had 45 minutes against 10 men and didn't have enough of a tempo. We've learned from that. in that we saw what the game situation was and we played it really, really well. And we took the sting out of the tail of Stevenage and ground them down. And that's what you have to do in this league. And it was beautiful to see. Whilst it wasn't a game that was very, very exciting for the neutral, I think if you sit there and watch a tactical battle that took place, it was fascinating. And we were always in charge of it. And that's very, very rare for Town.
I think that's why I quite enjoyed it. The geeky side of me was sat watching it like it's a bit like a chess match at certain points. And I quite like that. I think a few up where I sit got a little bit frustrated with it, and there were quite a few get it forward kind of shouts. But I think Town fans are going to have to control themselves, or some of them are going to have to control it, because that's not going to happen all the time. Sometimes we will attack at 90 miles an hour, and other times we will be quite slow and methodical. And I think the vast majority of fans are fully on board at the minute and quite enjoying what's happening at Huddersfield Town. Maybe the odd one here and there who likes to see things fast for 90 minutes, but it's not going to happen like that. So basically, Alfie May had a chance as well in that first half. Town's XG for the half was only 0.39, quite low. I don't know, maybe I'm giving Town too much credit, but it felt very much like a boxing contest, and one of those where over the first 6 rounds, there's a lot of body shots gone in from Town, to sort of slow Stevenage down in the second half. And we get to half time. I think Stevenage come out for 10 minutes in the second half and are actually really decent, and they looked a good side. And look, Stevenage are a good team at this moment in time. They've had this team brewing for a good 2 years now. They've got a lot of experience, a lot of competitive minutes together. They're very well organized, and they know each other inside out. This is a very difficult team to break down and defeat at this moment in time. If they get a few injuries, they could, tail off down the league, etc. But for the moment, Stevenage are a good side, and they had that little spell at the start of the second half. Again, didn't really hurt us that much. We kept them at length. But then it's the subs. Killer just alluded to it a minute ago. It's the subs that make the difference. Again, from Lee Grant. And one of the subs, I'll let Killer talk about Sean Rowan, because I know he's going to be dying to do that. But Murray Wallace goes off after 53 for Sean Rowan. He's the first one. And then the second one is to bring Taylor on up front, and Alfie May drifts to right for Marcus Harness. And I thought Marcus Harness had a fairly decent game. I thought he, like Killer said, offered a lot of protection. He acts as that pivot player as well, does Harness, where Sorensen will play it into him, and then you'll see the 1-2s off it, and Harness will then look to get people around. I thought Harness had a really sort of intelligent game without really hurting Stevenage massively, but I thought he was good. I thought he was a really good facilitator in this game. But he goes off and Alfie May comes on, and at this point I'm thinking, I'm not sure about that. I didn't really love it against Reading. But Alfie May was brilliant in that role. He was really good, really, really good. And those two substitutes really helped turn the game. And Taylor was all right again until he got that knock, which Jerry's pointed out beforehand. Jerry, Killer, talk amongst yourselves, but again, it's Town making subs and making positive changes which influence the game. And it's I think Danny Cowley used to get a lot of credit for kind of breaking the games down into sort of 20 minutes or 25 minutes, and then making into blocks of 4. Initially, they would feel the game out, and then they would make substitutions and tweaks to sort of try and alter and win the game. And Lee Grant's done similar. And I mean, Sean Rowan for Murray Wallace, it wasn't really anything spectacular that I think everyone in the ground would have picked that as the first sub, because Murray Wallace wasn't supporting Ruskin. But immediately Rowan came on and added that extra layer of support that Ruskin had missed. And Town just looked a completely different side, very much similar to Doncaster as well, where Gooch came on at left back against Doncaster, and Town and everything just completely changed down that side. And that's not a dig at Murray Wallace. Murray Wallace was there to do a specific role, and he did it. But when time came to make some positive changes, Town have done it. Killer, Gerald, I like the name Gerald. Sorry, Jerry, I'm running with it today. But
I love it. It's great.
it just worked really well again, and it's really nice to be able to sit here and say there's a coach here who knows his players and knows how to get the best out of them and knows when to make these changes at the moment, and it's nice. It's nice to have.
Yeah, so many times we've seen a half like that first half where both teams are just kind of trading jabs a little bit, to extend your boxing analogy, Matt. And, you're watching Huddersfield and it's like, well, this is either going to end 0-0 or Town are going to score off a set piece or some kind of mistake from the opponent. Like, we're not going to see. The feeling has been in previous seasons that Town are not going to be able to simply break down an organized opponent like a Stevenage, right? And they played large portions of this game with 9 of their 10 men behind the ball. Like, it was similar in some ways to the Blackpool, not as deep as Blackpool was playing, but the same number of men in defense that we would have seen in that second half at Blackpool. And after the first 10 minutes at Blackpool, it's like it was that feeling again, right? Where it's like, well, we're either going to score off a set piece or we're not going to score. Like the creativity is not there to just sort of pull them apart, break them down, and score that way. And particularly after Rowan came on, that feeling was not there in this game. Like, I felt like it's going to come eventually. Town are going to find a way through, sort of similar to the way they did against Doncaster. Like, someone is going to come up with the pass. Someone is going to come up with the shot. Town are going to put together the move that leads to a goal in this game, even though they are facing a very organized, very conservative, well-drilled, well-organized opponent. And, Killer, you're talking about how you can just watch Stevenage. You can tell Alex Ravel knows what he is doing. It was really kind of interesting. I think I mentioned this on the drive-in, but I listened to his pregame press conference, and he speaks in a lot of the same manners that Lee Grant does. And he mentioned that they did their coaching license, some level of it together. And I think there's a lot of similarities, honestly, in those two coaches, that they're very sort of modern, but they're also pragmatic. I think both of them know how to get the best out of the players that they have at their disposal. I have a lot of respect for that Stevenage team. We've, since coming down, we've played them now 3 times, and feel pretty fortunate to have gotten 9 points off of them. And, this was another case where it's going to take something, I don't know if I want to say special, but something smart, something clever to break that team down and get a goal. But I also felt like I said, particularly after Rowan came on, this Town team was going to be capable of that. And eventually they proved that they were.
Go on, Killer Diving.
Yeah, go on. I've got a lot to go on in this one, Matt. I loved it. The second half, the adjustments we made were fantastic. And now we got to go back to Blackpool, because I do think that's a comparison. Like you said, Jerry, I think Stevenage second half, we'd already broke them. I think we broke them in the first half. I think they came top of the league. They knew it was going to be a tough game. Absolutely. They've not really been tested as much as we were going to test them away from home. Obviously, it was going to be hard for them. Their first 11 is really, really good. They've got a couple of guards, Adame, who came on at the end, big number 9, and they had Phoenix. I can't remember his surname. He came on as well.
Patterson.
Phoenix Patterson. But outside that 13, 14 core guys that they've got, they haven't got too much. They're a small starting squad, right? They don't have the depth that we have. And over the course of the season, unless everyone stays fit and Reed keeps bagging, they will drop off somewhat. I still think they're going to be there and thereabouts. But for us going into this game, it's probably the hardest Stevenage team we could face, in that they've won 4 in a row. They're looking really, really good, and everyone is fit. But I do felt like we ground them down by controlling the game in the first half. But there was some issues in the way we played, in that it was patient yet too patient, Matt, for me. It wasn't. There were certain tiny things that were missing. And now that's absolutely fine if you're controlling the game, knowing you're going to go at it in the second half. But at half-time, I'm worried, thinking, against Blackpool, similar position, although they had 10 men chasing the game, trying to break them down. And we did the same thing for the rest of that second half. We didn't try anything new. It was all sideways. Imagine like a big horseshoe around the goal, and it's kind of like they'll let us pass around and around and around, and we just kept passing around and around and around. And my worry was, second half, that's what was going to happen with Town. Wallace went off, Rowan came on, Matt. And first thing he does, he stands 15 yards higher up the field because he has the pace to get back. That alone made a massive, massive difference for us, because it gives Kane and Ledson more options to pass forward instead of back. And League One football is professional football. It's very, very difficult to score a goal through good football. Normally, it's a mistake. It's really hard to create goals, right? But when you've got more guys further up the field and you're passing more progressively, you've got guys making a few more lateral runs, and your tempo switched up. I was sat there watching Lee Grant, Matt, and I think a few times this year he's not looked lost, but he's not very animative, is he? He's not really at it on the touchline. He's pretty calm. I felt like he's a little bit more at it this week. He was kind of getting the guys in the group to to do a little bit more. We went a little bit quicker with the throw-ins. We went a little bit more direct. And between Rowan coming on and then Ben Wiles, Matt, I'm going to go there. I know we've had a little bit of a discussion offline that you didn't think he was too great overall. The only thing he does is something that nobody else does. And Alfie May did it as well, Matt, and that's why it worked when he dropped a little bit deeper and wider. Both of them get the ball and sprint forward with it when possible. If there's 20 yards there, they take the 20 yards without even thinking about it. That just brought us so much further forward and up the field, creates the passing lanes for everybody else, Matt. But what the most important thing was, instead of passing it around in that horseshoe shape, we started looking for people running into the box. Every time we made a pass forward into the final third, it wasn't just out wide. It was in the half spaces. It was just on the edge of the box, which doesn't sound like a massive difference. I understand that. And people might be listening thinking, well, it's not that. It's only an extra 5-10 yards. It's a massive difference with the angles it creates. It means somebody can overlap and underlap and you've got more and more options. It was much more direct, a much more direct attack with a much higher tempo against a much better team than Blackpool, but it worked. And then as soon as Rowan and there's a heat map we've seen today in our Discord. I don't know if it's in ours or if it's down at the Max, but it shows where Ben Wiles' positioning was last year and Ruskin's position was last year. And basically, long story short, when Kane, Wiles and Rowan are playing together, they do work together really well down the left-hand side with nice little one-touch passing because not everybody can pass like that. Not everybody in the team can do that. Murray Wallace can't. That's not what he's there to do. But Rowan comes on and can. Some nice little touch footwork around the edge of the box, Matt, and we looked at a total different team. There was a spell there from 55 minutes to 85 minutes. That 30 minutes for me is the best technical football Town have played this season, and no team that we face could live with that. Now, we only got one goal. We should have got another one later on with something similar where Joe Taylor barely got a shot away. He didn't even make the highlights, but it is in the match day thing on Town's YouTube.
Did you get cleared off the line or something? It was quite.
I think he just got blocked by a defender. I think he just
blocked,
yeah. But it was that 30-minute spell was unbelievable in a very under the radar kind of way, and I don't think anybody else will scream and shout about it like I seem to be doing. But it was just complete perfect football, and that's the football you need to play for longer than 30 minutes. But when you've got a squad like us, and when you're as controlled for the first 55 minutes as we were, that's perfect football. If we could do that every week, we'll have no problem this season. It was just those little adjustments from a manager that, up until this point, to me, Matt, I've questioned somewhat his tactical adjustments. I thought he got it spot on, and fair play to Lee Grant there, because it was absolutely on his tactical changes that won that game so easily for us. I absolutely loved it.
I did as well. But, I mean, let's talk about the goal as well, because I think that's where Rowan comes into his own, doesn't he? He gets forward. And to be honest, I think against Blackpool, I was a little frustrated with Rowan because he didn't go on the outside much. But he did today, and he underlapped as well. I'm going to start singing the Wombles of Wimbledon at the minute because he underlapped and overlapped, and he seemed to get free down that left-hand side, and he pulls the ball across. And it's very similar to the Blackpool goal where Ruskin pulls it across and Gooch finishes on the far post. We're starting to see the same things happen, and Ben Wiles is key in that, Killer. I won't take that away from him because he's the one who pops into that half space and lays it off, isn't he? Harness does it well on the other side as well, by the way, but it's deeper and longer, if that makes sense. On that side with Rowan, Ruskin, and Wiles, they're a little bit tighter together, whereas Sorensen and Harness is over a greater distance, if you like, because there's more space and less players over there. But it's a good little move, and Rowan's the one who pulls it back. And it's for Taylor, and Taylor takes a swing and miss like Alfie May does at Blackpool. And then
Did you hear the commentators though, Matt? Did you hear the commentators suggest that it was a great leave? Even on the YouTube highlights now, I think he's been deadly serious that they're trying to suggest that Joe Taylor left that on purpose, which
let's give Joe Taylor. It's a great dummy from Joe Taylor. And it comes through to Alfie May. And Alfie May's, there's not many players in the box won't swipe at this. And Alfie May does really well. He kind of calmly picks his spot, but it's a great block on the line, to be fair to the defender. It's a brilliant block. And then we're quite fortunate in that it comes back to Alfie May. And we've got a 32-year-old striker who knows this level inside out. He's cool as the other side of the pillow, Jerry, isn't he? And he just pops it in the other corner this time and runs away. And that's Alfie May's first goal in open play. And there were some people getting a little bit concerned about the lack of chances Alfie May was getting. He's had 3 or 4 in this match, and Sorensen crosses for him in the first half, and it's like a snapshot. It's a half chance. The goalkeeper saves. He has a chance at the start of the second half, which again comes from the right-hand side. And again, it's a good save from Marshall, the keeper, who I thought had a good game for Stevenage. And then this one comes as well. where it's the third. Well, I suppose you could say it's the third and fourth chance, but he finishes it, doesn't he? And for me, it's great Alfie May play, and he was worth that goal because I thought he worked really hard, and I thought he was very smart in the way he's very different to Taylor. I think when we signed him, I was a little bit worried that him and Taylor were quite similar. But when you watch Alfie May play, he's nothing like him. I think in stature they're quite similar, but the way Alfie May runs and the runs he makes and how he drops into space, he's so effective and he's so clever. And that's because he's got 10 years on Taylor. Let's remember that. But I thought Alfie May was really good, really clever, dropping into those spaces, really good on that right hand side as well. And I enjoyed that goal because it's just coolly taken. Whereas we've seen Delano Bergzorg or somebody, and I don't mean to pick on the good doctor or anything, but he'd have just whacked that into the top. He'd have put that in the stand, wouldn't he? But it's just nice to have a cool, calm, and composed striker for once.
Yeah, absolutely. Town entered this game as the leading scorers in the division, which is sort of remarkable when you consider that their strikers had not combined to score a goal from the run of play. We had one from the penalty spot from May and one from Taylor from the penalty spot. So I do think that's kind of been an overarching concern about the start, is that they did need to get more chances for May. They do need to get more chances for Taylor. And that is what we saw in this game. May finished with 6 shots, which for one striker in one game, that's a pretty healthy number. Taylor, could very easily have scored that chance that you mentioned, Hildred Wilden, who actually comes off the right from right back. It's a brilliant block. Like, I think sometimes you have to tip your cap and you say, like, Taylor didn't do anything wrong on that chance. It's just a great defensive play. I would say the same about, Castledon's tackle against Donnie, Feeney's tackle against Donnie. Doncaster didn't give Town, didn't give those chances away. Town took them away from Doncaster with those tackles. And it's the same case here with Wilden and Taylor. But May, to be able to just kind of, like you said, composure is the word there, right? Like, it would be so easy, particularly on the rebound, to just blast that into space. And I really like such a roller coaster doesn't even really describe the gamut of emotions that go from May's got the ball in the box, shoot, okay, he hasn't shot yet, shoot, okay, he did shoot, it's a goal, oh, it's not a goal, shoot, okay, he's got it back, shoot, yes. Like, and all of that, of course, happens in the space of like 3 seconds, right? It's, I'm pretty sure my heartbeat on the EKG, at the hospital would have been this, just jagged lightning bolt basically going up and down. So it was it's just a wonderful goal to experience. And, to follow up your point, Matt, about May bringing more to the table than Taylor and being a different player. May led all of League One in goals and assists per 90 minutes last season, the entire division. He's not just a goal scorer. Like, he does, make smart runs back. He sets up his teammates. He does a lot of those little things that work to unlock a defense like Stevenage plays. Like, when there are 9 guys behind the ball, when there are 10 behind the ball, he's just such an intelligent player. And I think it's great that we saw, a bit of that. I like him, him and Harness as kind of a 1-2 punch in that right half space, like, opposite Wiles doing a lot of the same things. It's been great to see. I think it's going to serve Town really well all season.
I love him. I love Alfie, mate. And his goals just, honestly, I can't think of anybody we've had other than Prime Jordan Rhodes, who, when he gets it in the box, you just calm. You don't get that. I know you're saying, Jerry, you're stressing. Honestly, in the stadium,
Well,
it felt like you were going to get it in. And like, as soon as he gets the ball, it's like Mike Bassett. He's under fire, Mike, and he starts reading "If," which is a Rudyard Kipling poem, and it starts with, "If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs." And that's what it's like when Alfie May gets the ball, and these 4 guys throwing themselves in, trying to stop that ball getting into the back of the goal. And whilst it didn't go in first time, he kept his head and he put it away. And you just know that no matter what happens, if that chance arises to Alfie May, he's putting 99% of them away. No problem at all. But it wasn't that made me most excited about his performance on Saturday. It was that he created half chances out of nothing. He must have had 3 or 4 attempts. He had a header that was basically behind him, and he managed to get it on, and the keeper made a decent save. There was a volley from Sorensen that he should have. I hate saying he should have put it away because he's worked so hard against the odds to get to the cross in the first place, to get a good connection on it, and then you're thinking, oh, he's got a good connection on that. He should have put it in the back of the goal. Now the movement to get there was elite. It was great, and Arthur May just creates chances out of absolutely nothing, which is the direct opposite of other strikers that we've had at our club over the last couple of years, where it has to be gilt-edged, it has to be given on a platter for them to even take the shot. We've seen that with Dion Charles recently, that confidence has probably been a big part of it. But even when he's gifted an opportunity to score or to have a chance, he can't even take it against Leicester. I think he had a chance, didn't he, where the balls rolled to him in the box, and I think he took, I can't remember the Leicester game, but anyway, that's what I mean. That with Alfie May, he creates his own chances and he creates good chances out of nothing. And when he gets there, he looks calm doing it, and that's what you pay the money for. I know he's 30 odd and over £1 million a lot for him, but it's not when you see him play. You only have to see him for what? Against Burnley, he barely got the ball, Matt, in the pre-season game, yet still looked a class above all the other strikers we've got at this point. Taylor might get to that level, but he's a very, very different striker, like you say, Matt. And it surprised me as well. I thought they'd be a bit similar, but it's the work Alfie May does off the ball. It's not even his goal scoring. It's not even his chance creation. It's the Lee Grant's football is about when Town aren't on the ball, they're the best team in the division off it, without any doubt. And I think will be that between now and the end of the season. They all work really, really hard to get back into shape, back into a compact structure, where teams aren't going to score easy goals against us. I mean, we will pass it to them at one point, I'm sure, from the back, and Town fans will groan like mad. But that aside, we're going to be very, very difficult to score against, as proven up until now with so many clean sheets. Alfie May does that, and I don't think there's many strikers that score as many goals that he does that will do that work as well. In fact, I couldn't name one in this division that we've had before that did the off the ball work and still scored that many goals that Alfie Mays does. I feel quite fortunate being a Town fan, having him with us. I know that sounds a bit ridiculous, but I do. I feel like he's the perfect fit for us as a club right now, and just to see him play we're all quite fortunate to see him, I think.
Michael Duff's frothing, isn't he, at the mouth? That didn't happen last year. Poor old Duff man. Yeah, I didn't want that to sound like it was a dig at Taylor, because it's not. I think Taylor has a lot of strengths that he brings, and I thought he was very good when he came on against Doncaster, and he was unlucky not to start this game. To be fair to Joe Taylor, because he finished that game really well, and I thought he finished this quite well. He just took a knock, didn't he, Jerry? In that elaborate dummy that he did, and he struggled a little bit for the rest of the game. So the possession dipped with Town, so you can tell with the way Town played in that second half, they went more for the jugular and they were quicker and a bit more like the Town that we've seen earlier on, because the possession drops from 68% in the first half to 54%. But a big part of that, and I'm going to pick up on something which I thought was a little different. So there's two things that I want to discuss. One of them was Herbie Kane. I thought Herbie Kane was phenomenally good in midfield, and there's one of our Patreons, Terrier Jack, I'm going to call him out because he got slagged off by Matt Glenn, and Andy appears in the squad shortly as well. He didn't really think Kane was great. I think that was maybe swayed from 6 set-piece deliveries that didn't really come to much, which is fair enough. The set-pieces weren't great. But I thought Herbie Kane was brilliant in midfield. Ledson, I thought less so. I thought Ledson... Some of the passes from Ledson were a little bit underhit at times. Some of them were perfect, some of them a little bit underhit. And I thought he was a little bit up and down, but decent overall. I thought defensively very good in the last 15, Ryan Ledson. Herbie Kane, though, some of the passes he played through the lines were just phenomenally good. Were just championship level, and of a championship level that we haven't had in our midfield when we've been in the championship, apart from Carol Lighting or Aaron Moy, but obviously he's not Aaron Moy levels per se. But the type of passes that he was hitting in that game were just very good, very, very, very good. And I thought Herbie Kane was our man of the match, especially in that second half. I thought the way he pulled the strings in midfield was phenomenally good. Some of the passes, even when there was a ball over the top which got the winger in one-on-one with Goodman, who's the man behind our defence making the tackle, even though it's offside, Herbie Kane. I thought he had a brilliant game in that second half. Really good. He's one thing I wanted to discuss, which I'll turn it over. The second thing is, I felt like in this second half, we touched on earlier, didn't we, about how Town have not had massive opportunities to in pre-season to add strings to their bow. And I felt like in the second half that Town sat in the last 15, 20 minutes or so, maybe 15. And it felt like Town, and this is just a theory, it might be complete nonsense, but it just felt like Town used this game as a bit of a training exercise in some ways, because we were so on top leading into the final bits of that game. We had all the ball. Stevenage couldn't handle us. And then we just stopped playing and went visibly 10, 15 yards deeper. And it kind of felt like Lee Grant just said, do you know what? I want to see if you guys can hold on to a lead by containing them. And we did this against Burnley in pre-season. We played, I think, intentionally very deep and let the opposition have the ball to work on how we were out of possession. And it just felt like we let Stevenage have the ball to see if they could hurt us. And I mean, it's risky. It's a risky strategy if it's true. But we sat so deep and we sat off. But again, they couldn't really lay much of a glove on us. They brought on Ghassan Hadmi, the Moroccan striker, who's very good in the air, very good target man. He won a few headers. But Josh Feeney and Joe Lowe were very good in the middle of our defence. Thought Owen Goodman was fairly good as well. Anything he did was with a minimum of fuss. But it just felt like perhaps Herbie Kane was great, so we'll discuss that. But it just felt like maybe Town or Lee Grant decided, you know what, last 15 minutes, let's sit deep and see if we can contain them. And I know that sounds a bit silly, but there seemed no other reason for Town doing that in that game. But we just kind of sat in and kept them at arm's length. And to be fair, we did it well, Killer. Or
I'll take the Herbie Kane one on this one. Sorry, I'll take the Herbie Kane one because I'm less convinced that it was an intentional tactic that we sat back a little bit deeper. I think
we did sit back, didn't we? I didn't see things.
We did sit back, but I think it's because of the personnel changes we made. We didn't have the same outlets. But Herbie Kane, I'll back up Terry Jack a little bit here as well, Matt, just because he's my mate.
Shit house.
And secondly, first half, I think sometimes when you're remembering performances, you only remember the second half when it started going well. I think in the first half, there was a few moments where we did the same thing, Matt. Do you remember in the last few games, we've had moments where we won't miss a man out with a pass. So we always pass from right back to centre back to centre back to left back, just as a lazy example. There were moments in the first half where I feel Kane and Ledson had an option to ping it over to Ruskin, but didn't. We still went through that kind of routine passing at times. And this is very, very nitpicky. That's not to say they played poorly. I'm not saying that whatsoever. But there were moments, I think, where we could have changed the way we were trying to play football a little bit to bring the game to Stevenage a little bit more for my liking. Again, this is very, very nitpicking because in the second half, I feel the adjustments we made weren't just, like we say, passing down the middle, Matt, but we also started going long at times, and we've not seen that too often, but we were trying to make it more awkward again for Stevenage, and I spoke about this previously, where I think it's really important, no matter who you're playing, to look at what they are and make it awkward for them, not just your own way. We've had managers before, like Dave Wagner, it's our way, it's only ever our way. We're only going to play our way. And that works, certainly for some kind of managers. But I think in League One, it's a bit different. And you have to work out other teams' weaknesses and try and make the most of it. And I feel Town started doing that in that second half. Herbie Kane, especially, Matt, like you say, passing the balls quicker through the lines, looking for the quick. There were 2 or 3 free kicks where he did find Ruskin and the referee blew it back for the ball rolling. And if they'd have not been recalled, would have probably had another goal even earlier, in that there was a few chances that came from that. It's just nice seeing Herbie Kane getting a run in the team, Matt. He's better weather at the moment. As we know with Herbie Kane, the issue is him staying fit. And I do think for a lot of his size, I'm not saying he's overweight, but he's of a stature.
Slim line is Herbie.
He is. He's looking as good as he ever has, but he's still a big bloke. He's naturally a big bloke. And I'm worried about 2 games a week through the heavier months when we're going to pitches that aren't going to be as well looked after as ours, especially when we're top of the league by 20 points and teams are going to try and make it as difficult for us as possible. Then Herbie Kane probably will have to change the way he plays to stay as fit as he is at the moment. But I'm out with you. I thought he was absolutely great. Again, I'm with you on Ledson. I thought he was the lesser of the 2 performers. Again, I don't think you can go at anyone, even Murray Wallace in this game, and say they were poor or they had a bad game. I don't think anybody did. Everyone, I think 7 out of 10 is average for me, Matt. I'm a little bit kinder than you on your match scores. everyone for me is a 7, and that's from playing Football Manager / Championship Manager for the majority of my adult.
It's 6.7 is Football Manager now for the average. The start at 6.7.
I expect more than everybody else. I'm after 7. 7's average for me, and I'd give everyone a 7 at that point. However, I thought the second half performance of Herbie Kane was much better than the first, and was the standout performer on the field. Absolutely, his intelligence of turning when there's a guy near him. He doesn't dive. I'm not going to say dives for fouls, but he knows when the leg's going to be there, and he likes to just take himself down and win free kicks when necessary, when nothing's on. And that's another thing. I think with other players where they go down a little bit easier, right? But they're not reading where the game situation is. Herbie Kane never does that. He'll never go down if there is a break on. It's just when players broken down somewhat, he's clever. And we haven't had that many clever midfielders for a long time, but Herbie Kane is definitely that. And it's really nice to see. But in playing in that holding role, Matt, where you don't have to do as much running forward because your first job is to just defend and make sure you can break up the other team's play, it's perfect. Perfect for Herbie Kane. And if he can stay fit, just like last year, Matt, with a triangle of Wiles, Kasumu, and Herbie Kane, we won a lot of games, and we are a much better midfield this year and a much better all-round team than we were last year. If Kane stays fit, we will win a lot more games than we don't.
Gerald?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of moments. I think I would totally agree. I thought Kane was man of the match. 2 moments that kind of stand out to me. One happened, I don't know, maybe the 70th minute or so. Towner kind of pinned deep on their left wing side of the penalty box. And I think he and I want to say Rowan exchange a couple of passes, and then Kane dribbles, along the back line, sort of towards the center of the box. It's like, well, what are you doing? Where are you going? And he pings a 60-yard ball in Joe Taylor's direction. Taylor chases it down and draws a foul. That's a little bit of a soft foul, to be honest. But that one play completely flips the field. Town go from being pinned all the way back to having a free kick on the Stevenage side of the field. And it's a brilliant play. Like, even if Taylor doesn't draw that foul, it takes all the pressure off. And I think that's something that it feels like Kane has kind of added to his game a little bit, that I think we saw at multiple stages in this game, is that he's a little bit more comfortable with the dribble. And, it's not, he's always obviously been a brilliant passer. But, there are times when, if he's been pressured a little bit, it's felt like he's been more willing to sort of just play a safe, quick, like, let me get the ball out from under my feet, and that's fine. But I do feel like we're seeing a little bit more willingness to sort of dribble in tight spaces, advance the ball without necessarily passing it. Now, not a lot. He's still a passer first and foremost, but just those little moments like that one at the box where it feels like he's a little bit more comfortable, more confident with the ball directly at his feet, I think is great. The other one was, late in the game, Kemp, Dan Kemp, I think is, the really dangerous player for Stevenage, their playmaker, their 10, had the ball, was running into town box, and Kane just cleans him out, takes the yellow. Like,
he Galbraithed him, didn't he?
Yeah, he just completely takes him out. And Glennon, commented on how pissed off Kemp was after it. And it's like, yeah, you just had your attack ruined. And, Town had to not defend the free kick. It just went, well over and off to the side. It's one of those things but Kane makes that play because he knows that the free kick is, a much lower percentage chance than letting, Kemp just run into the box with the ball at his feet. And it's a smart veteran play from a smart veteran player who I thought was Town's best player in this match. To get to your point, Matt, about laying off there in the last 10 minutes, it's almost comical to look at the FOTMob graph of attacking momentum throughout the game, which is basically nothing but blue, Town ridges the entire game until the last 15 minutes, when finally there's some Stevenage red on the other side of the graph. I don't know if it was I think what was intentional was Town basically saying, we're not going to do any kind of pressing. We're going to put everybody back, which is the natural sort of response. You're up 1-0 into the last 10 to 15 minutes of the game. And then I think it's also Stevenage just sort of getting more desperate. This is how, game states and soccer work. Football. where the team that's behind
Heresy.
has to. I know. I think that may be the first time I've made that mistake
Slipping.
on this podcast.
It's the last
I'm fired
appearance
up.
for a while now, Jerry.
I know.
Yellow
I'm so
card,
excited
suspension.
by what Huddersfield Town are doing. I'm making mistakes. But I think it's just kind of natural that Stevenage, again, we've talked about it. They're a good side. They're not going to just roll over and say, "Oh, well, that's the game. We're gonna take our ball and go home with our 1-0 defeat." We saw that against Port Vale. With Reed bagging 2 there in the last 10 minutes of the game. They're a proud team. They weren't top of the table by accident. They when it gets down to sort of the nitty gritty there at the end. They were going to at least make an effort to score. And I think it's the Town's great credit that, again, they never really had that one chance where you say, oh, they should have scored. That never came. Goodman he never really makes the save. Honestly, he does the one sort of flying across, tip the, ball out for the corner off of the deflected shot there. But that shot was going wide. It wasn't, to my mind, was not all that dangerous to begin with. Single game
Goodman
XG
kind of
is
makes
not
quite
something.
a lot of that, doesn't he? Yeah, so.
He kind of does. I don't want to say it's bad goalkeeping, but it's like
misread. He seemed to misread
let that
bit,
one go, Owen. Like, you really don't have to fly across to give them the corner quite so spectacularly. I want to say he was bored at that point, possibly. But you look at again, you don't want to read too much into XG from a single game, but Stevenage finished with 11 shots and I think 0.46 XG according to FOTMob. It was just an indication of what I think we all saw with our eyes, which is that, at the end of the game, Stevenage had a number of shots. Throughout the game, they had, little opportunities here and there, but they never had a good chance. They never really laid a glove on Town. I never felt like Town's lead was ever in jeopardy after they went up.
And even if it isn't on purpose, it's really good because it's the first time we've been tested in that way, I think, where you are up by 1 and you are under the cosh, regardless, again, by design or not. It's a really good test of character and it's a real positive thing. It's never great, I guess, not having the ball and having to defend. But the fact, like you say, we didn't press, we let them put the ball in high. And to be fair, I'm sick of seeing that. And last year getting punished for it. It didn't feel nervy at all. It didn't for me. I felt comfortable as anything watching that game. And again, that's rare for a Town team of any era. Never mind this era or recent eras. It's rare that we've had that control. But it really felt like even when they did throw everything at it, I still wish we've got that option at some point because I'm sure we're going to need it at that point because it definitely changed the dynamics of the game. But it still never felt like we were going to concede. And it'll only do us well. It'll do us really well being under that. At home especially, that the fans still help drive the team forward. I know it's easier when you're winning. But again, everyone kind of understood the situation, even in the stadium, that we're winning. They are throwing everything at it. They're a solid, good team. No one got frustrated. Everybody was calm, and it'll see as well in the games to come.
A stat for you, courtesy of one of our listeners, David Clibbins. Huddersfield Town have scored 12 goals in all competitions this year, and 7 of them after we've made 3 substitutions, which is interesting, isn't it? So It shows the power of Lee Grant's decision making so far. Really solid performance. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Because I'm a nerd. Let's find out what all of the other Town fans in our TTC squad thought of it, because it's time to check the answer phone.
Hello, there is no one here to take your call, so for your convenience, we've answered it automatically. Now don't hang up. When you hear the tone, leave your name and a brief message, and we will contact you upon our return.
Hey guys, it's Marcus. Terriers 25 people in the Discord, giving my Stevenage review. I thought they played well. They were defensively very, very solid with Town. They're coming up against a side that's won 4 out of 4. They must be doing something right. But I thought they controlled the game, did Town really, really well. I thought some standout players. I thought Hildred was really, really good at getting the team going and involved. His passing is very, very good. I thought Les Sorensen had his best game in a Town shirt. Finally taking players on again, not being scared to kind of go at people, which I think is something that he's not done for a lot. So I'm hopefully this is a new start for Les. Yeah, they just played well. Like I say, defensively, I thought they're outstanding with Town. Could they do a bit more in attack in certain areas and be a bit more clinical? Yeah, they can be. I still think they probably need a bit of physical presence up front, but regardless, they got the win and they've played well. So, anyway, up the Town.
John McNamara here, Northern Ireland's most handsome, attractive, and hilarious man, 3 years running. Another 3 points in the bag today. I can't really say much more because I found it just a really boring game, if I'm being perfectly honest. There's a lot to like there. There's also a lot to work on as well. I think we've got 1 or 2 issues in the squad that make us look a little bit disjointed and not as fluid as we perhaps should be. Hopefully those things can be solved with a bit of time and maybe 1 or 2 additions in the transfer window, or what remains of it. But yes, I'm cautiously optimistic. The sceptre, I said the wrong word there. The sceptre of last season still hangs heavy over my head though, so I don't want to get too carried away. I don't want to get too optimistic because I've been burned before by this team and I feel like we could be burned again. But anyway, onwards and upwards, up the Town.
Hi, it's Josh Armfield. Obviously really delighted, but struggling to order my thoughts about the game. I think Stevenage were poorer than I expected, more passive. I wonder if they let us have the ball in the hope that we wouldn't do anything with it. I mean, it nearly worked, right? But at the same time, I think we completely deserved the win. Still question quite how successful we'll be going forward against the better teams. I don't necessarily count Stevenage as one of those. Feels like the spark's missing. And yet I'm overall pretty pleased with how things are going. I said on the other Discord, do I think we deserve to be second in the league at this stage? Probably do. But it's a very imperfect second. Nevertheless, 3 more points and something to build on. So yeah, very pleased.
Hi all, it's James Bartby here. Just on yesterday's game, I thought it was another good win, obviously, another clean sheet. That's 4 wins, 4 clean sheets. We'll forget about the Blackpool thing. Really good goal as well. It's a shame the first effort didn't go in from Altamir. Would have been probably the goal of the season. I think it was brilliant. And how nice to have such a composed striker in the box and not one that just wants to smack it as hard as they can and hope for the best. A lot of rotation again, and I think that's leading to some disjointed performances and a little bit of maybe partnerships not forming quite yet. But imagine when we do click, how good we could be.
Hey, Terrier Jack here. I didn't think it was as good a performance as some other people are saying. Matt Glennon called me negative on BBC Radio Leeds, so that's always good. But I just thought we lacked that final ball a lot of the time today. We looked quite tired, just didn't seem to be clicking entirely. And I thought that's the reason why the atmosphere fell pretty flat as well in the stadium. But other than that, I thought the defence was really good. Joe Lowe is just really great at centre-back. That height we've just been missing since last season. Lassie had a good game, which was really encouraging to see. Not so keen on Murray Wallace at left-back, but what can you do? Other than that, we'll see. The team's gonna, or the group should I say, we're gonna take some time to get used to each other. So if we're still winning, that's the main thing. Other than that, up the Town.
Good afternoon, Town fans. This is Ben Williams to talk about the Stevenage match. So to begin with, I thought we were actually, maybe for the first time this season, the better team in the first half. And we looked quite good. And then sort of the opposite to normal games. We were hoping half-time never happened. And unfortunately, when it did happen, I thought Stevenage came out stronger. It's sort of, they were begging on for it like we were in previous games. However, for the first time in quite a while, we built up some momentum before the goal. Like, I was feeling a goal was coming, rather than last season it'll always be, oh, you can just tell they're going to score from now. And yeah, Alfie May got his first open play goal for us, and hopefully it's first of many for him. But a really, really good win for us. Haven't conceded at home in the league yet, and won every game so far at home. So happy days, up to town.
Hey guys, it's Aiden. My 1 minute or less review of this match, Town versus Stevenage. I thought it was a pretty good performance from us. The first half, like always, is a little bit more dull than the second half. It seems to be a bit of a trend with us under Lee Grant that the second half is always better than the first, which I would prefer that to the first half being better than the second. So it seems like his team talks at halftime are really doing something, and his adjustments are working. So, for example, Rowan coming on for Wallace today, I don't think that Wallace is a left back. I think Lee Grant needs to realize that, and I think he will realize that pretty quickly, that he can't play there. But then Rowan ends up cutting the ball back, getting it in the box for May's goal. So another just nice substitution from Lee Grant, another good halftime, adjustment from him, and we go on to get the win.
All right, lads, Johnny from over in Perth here. Just my thoughts on yesterday's game against Stevenage. Surprising lineup. Surprised to see Wallace at left back, but I think when Rowan came on, absolutely changed the game for us, and you can just see that there was almost a shift in mentality, which was pretty cool. And it's really nice, I think, after a few years of not having any options off the bench, it's really nice to see like a strong bench and that can actually change games. I think it was a laboured game, something we had to battle through, but it was great to get the 3 points in the end. These are the types of games that you need to win if you're going to do anything well. So I think it's a good place to be in at the moment. I think the squad will eventually, hopefully, gel and click together, and you can see us doing some really good things when that happens up the town.
Can someone check on Matt Glennon? Slags a lot of people off, Jack. I won't take it too personally, so don't be too sad about that. He's had a go at me before for laughing at a hair joke, so don't take it too bad. Right, so that is the squad. So thanks guys for sending in your opinion. I would be interested to know if the music's a little bit too loud on that one for people when they listen back, because apparently when you listen to social media guidelines, you should always put music in the background for stuff like that. So I've tried to do it, and I don't know if it's a little bit too chaotic, so we'll see. But the last time I tried to get some cheap AI music, I got slagged off for that as well. So I've gone for Cleckheaton's Finest Clouded Lights band there. So check them out. Right, so that Blackpool anomaly is starting to look a little bit frustrating, isn't it? Just as an aside, at Blackpool, we've lost one game this season, and Blackpool have won one game, and that mad 15 minutes just kind of just rankles a little bit, doesn't it? Now we've seen how crap Blackpool are. Apart from that little 15-minute spell, it's eating on me as that one. But Jerry, you wanted to ask something which was very risque, wasn't it? About Town potentially being the best team in the division so far, which to me, it's you don't do this kind of stuff in England, Jerry.
Do we not even talk about that? I totally understand.
Well,
you asked Matt. You asked Matt, for potential topics, but it's just like, so I look at the table, right? And Town are second in the table. They have the best goal differential in the entire division. They're the joint highest scorers with Mansfield, actually, put 4 past Orient to join Town on 10 teams, including one from halfway, by the way. If you haven't seen that goal yet, you need to look at that one. And I think Town overall have played a tougher schedule than Cardiff, who are top of the league. Cardiff, kind of wheezed past Wimbledon. They opened their season with Peterborough, who I think, for my money, have been the worst team in the division so far, are just getting beaten week in and week out. It's pretty hilarious to me that they picked up their first point of the season against Bradford. I enjoyed that. Look, I'm just throwing it out there. Like, if we're taking stock after 5 games, is there a League One team that's performed better than Huddersfield Town? I don't know if there has been. Now, that's not to say I realize that sort of mentioning this out loud is going to rankle some folks and ruffle some feathers. And to be fair, Town could have played a more difficult schedule themselves. They haven't played. I do think there's, teams like Stevenage and Doncaster, I think are going to be top half teams. I think they'll possibly be in with a shout for the playoff places, but I don't think they're in that sort of automatic promotion contender tier, with, I think we're still looking at like the same sort of teams you would expect, Cardiff and Luton and Stockport. And I think Bolton are the one team I would point to that are much better than their current place in the table. They've been very unlucky in a couple of their games where they've dominated and haven't gotten the 3 points. The one against Lincoln at the weekend was the latest, where Lincoln score in the after 19 seconds, and Bolton basically just dominate the ensuing 90 plus minutes and finally get the equalizer in the 97th minute, which I think is maybe has to be some kind of record, right, for longest distance between two goals in a game, right? You've got your opener after 19 seconds and then your equalizer in the 97th minute. It's not really possible to go a lot further between two goals in the same game than that, right? And Town haven't played those teams, right? They haven't played Bolton. They haven't played Cardiff. They haven't played Luton. They haven't played Stockport yet. But it's just, I think it's food for thought, particularly when we talk about coming into the season. We all said this is a team that's going to need some time to gel, that they're going to need some time to learn how to play together. And there's going to be some rough parts at the beginning of the season. I think we all said that there's some tricky fixtures on the list, the Stevenage game being one of them. And to even be able to argue, this is kind of the point I want to get at, whether Town have been the best team in the division through 5 match days, it doesn't really matter. The point is that if you can argue that at this stage of the season, when they're still learning how to play, when this, Town attack under Lee Grant still isn't clicking, I would agree with every Town fan who came away from the Stevenage win saying, well, there's still room for improvement with that attack. Things aren't still clicking the way we would like them to click. I would agree with that. And they're still the joint high scorers in the division. They're still second in the table. They still have the best goal differential in League One. If we can say all of these things about Town right now after 5 games, what does that mean for the rest of the season when they do learn how to play together?
I mean, there's only one game where we've conceded goals, isn't there, as well?
There's one half where they've conceded goals. They've played 10 halves of football in the league, and they've conceded a goal in one of those 10 halves. And they're, again, like joint high scorers in the division. You put those two facts together, and I'm feeling pretty good, y'all. I am.
I'm all in. Jerry, I'm all in now. I'm all in. That's it. That's all I needed. I just needed 3 minutes from Jerry, and now I'm in. I'm on board. But you're right. And I don't even think Blackpool that bad. I think first 15 minutes, Matt, we were sat there at Blackpool thinking, right, 1-0 up, we're going to batter these 10-0. I felt sorry for Blackpool. 7 minutes, 14. Honestly, I looked at the scoreboard and I thought, we've had about 15 chances here, like possession base wise, pushing upfield, looking like we're going to absolutely murder them. And I'm thinking, oh, Bruce is on his way. We're going to have a right nice day out on the beach afterwards. We're going to go to Coral Island and win some 2 pences and have a wonderful afternoon with some vegan chips. It turned sour very quickly in a very short period of time. But it wasn't that bad. And now it's easy saying this, looking back a few games past when you've won a few afterwards and everything's fine again. But Blackpool wasn't actually that bad. There was a small period where we gifted goals away, and that was like the world folding on itself, right? But it was a very, very short period of time. And in the second half, we did dominate. We just didn't do it in the right way. And again, I felt it was a tactical thing, not necessarily the players not trying, not choosing the right passes. I think everything was off and it was wrong. And that's what happens when you're building yourself into a new team and in a new season. We are, without doubt, one of the best teams in this division. Are we the best? Maybe, but it doesn't really matter. The thing is, the way seasons start aren't necessarily how they finish. You can look at last year, Mansfield started, they lost Keeler Dunn to Barnsley, yet we're top of the league after, I don't know if it might be now, 4 or 5 games. They were doing absolutely fantastic, fell away. And as the opposite, Leyton Orient started with one of their worst starts in history, then went on a winning streak after we beat them, where they win 11 out of 12 or something, and found themselves realistically at the end of the season 3rd best team in the division. I know they got done by Charlton in the play. But they were fantastic. Leyton Orient were unbelievable because they adjusted and felt the way into the season. Where Town are now is great, and it's a foundation. But that's what excites me as well, in that Lee Grant's only been a manager for, 4 or 5 league games and a cup game. That's it. That's all he's been here for. And you can see, or I think I can see, little adjustments he's doing now in games, and he's learning and growing as a manager. And you have to do that quick. It's all right saying, you need to do a few years before you realise. No, you don't get that as a football manager. You get a few games, and you have to adapt quickly. And from what we all can see, I think, is that is happening. There are other teams that are really good, though. You can't look past Stockport. They lost to Bradford, but again, every team that have come up, Matt, we were talking about in our pre-season preview, and I think we are the only people that said AFC Wimbledon might do all right this year and not get relegated embarrassingly. I've not seen anybody else say they're not going to finish 24th.
I had them in the bottom 4, to be fair.
I thought they'd be all right because they came up with a good defence, and if you've got a really good defence, even though Goodman must have been great for them as he's been so far for us, it takes you so far. But Bradford City is starting really well this year, and they've beaten Stockport, but Stockport have drawn another game against Leyton Orient away from home. They drew 2-2, which isn't the end of the world, is it? Like, that's not too bad of a result if you step back and look at it. They've won 3, drawn 1, lost 1. But this weekend, they beat Burton. They were down to 10 men, and they were 1-0 down to 10 men, 20, 30 minutes in, came back and won the game 2-1 at home with 10 men. That's a fantastic test of character. So there's other teams around that I think as the seasons go along, will get better, because I know we've had such a massive overhaul. Every other team in this division have had changes. Look at Leyton Orient. They've had to swap their entire front three in the Gabreth's gone, and they've lost Brown as well as defensive midfielder. They've lost players everywhere, and that's League One. It's a transient league when it comes to players in teams. Nobody keeps the same guys and the same unit year to year. It's how you transition through the winter months. These seasons are made. If you get to the playoffs, of course, we excel at that point. If we can get there, fantastic. It's those winter months where you really have to get at it, and that's when seasons are made or broken. Later on last year, made it. Mansfield, even Barnsley, I guess, last year kind of threw it away in that middle period as well. Not that they were ever fantastic, but that's where it goes. But you couldn't ask for a better start for Town, and you couldn't ask for a more positive start, not just in results, but in the way the games are going. And it really feels like we're going in the right direction. And that's all I think we can ask for at this point.
Yeah, I've enjoyed the start of the season so far. I don't want to get carried away, because we won our first 4 games last season, didn't we? And then it all fell apart. But we said a few weeks ago, this feels different, doesn't it? It feels that the players feel different. Everything feels different. But in Yorkshire, Jerry, we tend to be a little bit conservative at times with our emotions. So we'll just keep those in check for now before. Yeah. And then maybe towards the end of April, we might start getting excited if we're top of the league by 20 points, but only then in that circumstance. But yeah, Town.
One more point I want to make.
It's encouraging, let's say.
Yeah, I would say it's the difference between playing Stevenage at the beginning of last season and playing them this past weekend. When we played them, I think it was the second game of the season last year. Town won 2-1, but I kind of walked away from that game. I remember thinking, well, I'm really glad we won, but I don't know if we were fully the better team in that game. Stevenage missed
second
an
half
absolute sitter. Yeah, like early in that half that should have tied the game. Town got a second, eventually gave away a penalty, and it was just like, it's like, well, you go through the season and you say to yourself, well, a promotion winning team, one of the playoff contending teams, these teams are going to win games where they don't play well. But there's 2 types of winning games when you don't play well. One is where the other team is better and you nick something off of a corner and they miss a bunch of chances, and you win even though you weren't the better side. But then there's also ones, and that was more like we saw against Stevenage last season. This past Saturday, what we saw was Town weren't at their absolute best, certainly in attack. There's still another gear for them to find there. And they won, but they were the better team this time, and it wasn't close. It was not like last year's Stevenage game. This was a different brand, a different type of, they won without even playing their best soccer. They didn't play their best soccer, and they were still comfortably better than a team that came in with a 100% record.
Mark, come on, we need a word here. This is an instant 3-match ban. I think the use of
soccer
over and over again.
Oh my gosh!
Bloody Americans! before Jerry gets
Guys,
his,
I will say this: the Brits
blackballed
came up
by-
with the word. We just borrowed it.
Yeah, we don't like it though.
I know. I'm sorry.
Right. Also, we were crap against Shrewsbury. We beat Shrewsbury 1-0 as well.
Yeah.
At this point last year, we were poor in that game as well. So yeah, it does feel and look a lot better at the moment. But so let's have a look. So Huddersfield Town under 21s have got off to a bit of an inauspicious start as well. Lost 3-0 at Bournemouth. Lost 2-0 at home to Colchester, which is not a good result at all. And 6-0 at Swansea today. So they're struggling at the start. It's going to take years to undo the damage that closing the academy caused. I don't think that can ever be underestimated, which I'll be honest, it sets a club back 10 years plus what we did there, especially when you go back and start setting it back up. Unless you go out and buy loads of players at all sorts of levels, which in League One for Huddersfield Town probably isn't top of the priority list, let's be honest. But the under-21s have had a bit of a tough start. Town Women lost 2-1 as well, which was a disappointment. Lost in the last minute to Cheadle this weekend, which is a shame as well, but I'm sure they'll bounce back, especially when they get some of their better players back in the team.
Cheadle's supposed to be a really good team too in that division. I think they
they're expected to be at the top. I think them and
last
Leeds and
Yeah.
Huddersfield are the three teams expected to be right up at the top. So to lose to them is probably a bit disappointing in the last minute. But I think Town Women will get stronger, especially when they get some of these players playing like Laura Elford, etc. But all going to be told in the story of in time there, Jerry. So Town off to a flyer this season, only conceded in one half of football this year in 10 halves, as Jerry has accurately told us. Lots of fun so far. Boys, thanks for joining us. We'll be back with the drive-in in midweek, and keep an eye out for the Town Social as well. If Nick decides to ever come back from holiday, I'm sure that'll be on the cards as well. So keep your eye on stuff. And remember, sign up for the Patreon, because you'll get all sorts of notifications as and when we've got things going. Thank you, and goodbye.